This is reposted.
All right, Andrew. Today's quote comes from one of our faves, Meister Eckhart, who says, "If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough." I was thinking about this. I am not a great thank you writing person. And then I was like, wait a minute. I actually don't know anybody that's around my age or my friends that's a great thank you writing person. For instance, like, well, I guess maybe you're raising your hand, maybe it's you, but like whenever you hear of like thank you writing people, it's like somebody from the past. Nobody writes thank you notes anymore.
I think in general people don't. I guess that's deviating a little bit from the quote. We'll get back to it. But anytime I have an audition, I write a thank you note to the casting director, and it was something that my parents made me do when I was little. I remember one time specifically sitting at the kitchen table and being like, "You can't get up until you write this thank you note." And I was
Same
like,
with
"I don't
me.
know what to write."
Yeah.
Because it feels weird to just because you have this whole space and you don't fill it up. And I think I've just now it's something I do. And in my relationship, Nicole is like, "You're good at writing those things, so you're gonna write it, and I'll sign it."
Every time somebody get like what's the threshold for a thank you note for you?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends. I think it's more of the relationship with the person. If I don't know them that well, or if I'm not interacting with them more than twice a year, then I'll do it. Like I went to a Christmas party, holiday party, I don't know what to call it. And it was this guy that I worked with, and I wrote him a thank you note. It was at their house, and it was a nice party. And he wrote me an email back because he probably didn't get any other thank you notes.
But my point is like you go to lots of Christmas parties in the old days, but you didn't write that to everyone. You every once in a while you go like that was actually nice, and you wrote. That's my sort of idea with thank you notes is that you
Uh-huh.
don't do it for everything. Every once in a while you go like that was really extra special. I'm gonna write them a note.
Yeah, but it's so extra special just to get a note that's
It
nice.
is.
My aunt did something in November. She called it her month of gratitude, I think, and she wrote everyone or she wrote a letter every single day and expressed her gratitude to the people in her life. And I got one, and it really meant a lot. She's always been really good at writing those things. Back to the quote though, I think if you change the word with prayer to say the only thing you ever say in your life is thank you, like you're going to be all right. Like not a prayer adds like a weird
Yeah.
religious
Yeah.
layer to it, which will turn people off, and which for some people is great, but like I think just the overall message is like if you're grateful, if you're grateful for what you have, you're gonna be okay.
Well, just on the flip side of that though, Meister Eckhart, one of our favorites, is a theologian, and so he's gonna invoke the word prayer. But I
And
like
he's a
what?
mystic.
And he's a
Was.
mystic, which I do love a lot as well. But I like the idea of him saying, like, we always think like prayer is some thing that these crazy religious people do. Actually, he's saying, like, hey, man, a prayer is just a thank you. And I like that he kind of brings it down to this really kind of basic level. We make it a big deal. No, prayer's just thanking somebody. That's a prayer.
Yeah, and I guess the more I think about it as we were talking, I think I write thank you notes. It's a little bit selfish because I feel like, ooh, no one else is doing this. I feel good about myself. So at the end of the day, like everything you do is because of you, and I guess I get joy out of the thought of people getting the thank you note, and it's not a
Hey, just
selfless act.
just full disclosure, me and you in this last year got each other birthday presents, but neither of us wrote thank you notes for those birthday presents, just for the record.
That is true. But again, the thank you note I think is there's a line where you talk to the person enough that you write it or don't. In general, that's what it is. I see you
Well,
almost
we
every
talk to
day.
each other every day, so
Yeah.
it doesn't qualify.
So what was the last
Here,
thank you note you wrote?
I, this is what I do for thank yous. I have an app on my phone, a postcard app, and so whenever I feel compelled to write a thank you note, I literally go to this app. I take a picture of something, and then I send a thank you on this postcard. It costs like $2
Uh-huh.
with its postage and everything. Da da da. Someone did something. This reason for me, someone did something very nice. Someone who comes on the show did something very nice. He had burritos delivered to my house last night. Kind of random, something that he used to do. Big guy, Brandon. He used to come to our house and bring burritos. He literally had burritos delivered to our house, like out of the blue last night. It was crazy. And he did it like he normally did in the old days when he lived here, is that he brought burritos after we had made dinner. Something like making dinner and then burritos show up. And you're like, crap, I just cooked dinner. which is really cool because that's how I used to do in the old days. And I was just compelled to be like, dude, that was so nice. And so I sent him a thank you. That's what I feel like a thank you is like when you feel compelled to thank someone and like get pen to paper.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about, I don't know what the word for it is, noise, static. There's so much noise in your
Yeah.
life that like you could be compelled and then all of a sudden someone stubs their toe in your house and they're crying and then your mind goes away from that. Or for me, a chopper goes by and I'm like, why are these jerks being so loud? So I think it does take so much more effort. And I think that's why getting actual USPS mail is more special.
Have you ever expected a thank you note? You did something, you're like, man, I better get a thank you note. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I wrote a thank you note and I'm pretty sure that it didn't get there and it still bugs me. It was something silly. I worked with a sound engineer to make my voiceover reel and I sent her a thank you note and it was when I first moved into my apartment and I don't think that the mail got out. And I still think about that.
You know, I think the thing about thank yous sometimes, and this is like kind of true for my wife, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be pen to paper. Like you could just call someone, you could just text someone, you could just send someone an email. I think oftentimes we get overwhelmed that it's got to be this with the written with a, a special pen on stationery. Like just quick thank yous mean something as well.
I think they do, but I also think that it doesn't have to be pen to paper, but I think it has to be somewhat of an effort out of your normal day. Like if we have multiple friends that have assistants, and if it's something that they're like, hey, send Larry a thank you note, and it's clearly not written by them, you're like, that's not really an effort. But like also it is a lot of their effort and they actually take time to call you. Like it just depends. For me, it means more for whatever. I had a friend that I was like, hey, let's hang out. He's like, all right, schedule some time with my assistant. We're no longer friends.
True story. I had a pastor once, not at a like big church, like whatever. And like, I'm like, hey man, let's hang out. He's like, hey, I'm going to get my assistant and I'll schedule something up. And I was like, bro, are you serious?
I mean, that's the pragmatic thing to do. But when you treat I mean, this is another show. If you treat your personal relationships like business relationships, what do you end up with at the end of the day? And
I think that just the last thing I wanted to add on to what you're saying there is like, it just has to be heartfelt. Like you have to, you can, when you like truly are thanking someone, like I was compelled last night because someone did something extra special and I have a contentious with a relationship with Brandon. I wanted him to know that I truly was thankful for this really cool idea that he kind of brought to our family. So it just like, you can't be one of those like, thank you. It's got to be like something meaningful.
my favorite part of this episode is Brandon's going to listen to it. He's going to check his mailbox every day and nothing will show up.
And I was Googling famous thank you notes. And the coolest one that I found was from Neil Armstrong. 25 years after he landed on the moon, he wrote everybody that worked on the extra vehicular mobility unit, the EMU. He wrote everybody that wrote that vehicle that got him off the moon. He wrote him a thank you note 25 years later for doing an outstanding job on that task. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like 25 years later, it's like, I should write those guys a letter.
Before we wrap this up, there is a glitch in the Matrix. I never get these. I just got a text message from Brandon.
Shut up.
It popped up on my screen. Oh,
While we're doing this.
Well, right now, Brandon, if you guys want a thank you card, please reach out. You can find us on Posted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for Meister. Thank you, saying thanks for stopping by.